Is it prudent to move from an EA to CSP? What are you losing? What are you gaining? Pros and cons. What's your opinion on that, Alex?
There's a reason why I published a video recently on this channel about this switch, because what I can see is some clients approach this completely unaware of the differences. The rule number one is the same products in CSP have different licensing rules. So if you're used to buying, say, Windows Server through Open, through MPSA, any Microsoft agreements, I don't want to throw many acronyms here, and Enterprise Agreement, of course, Enterprise Agreement. For some of the products, I'm not saying every product is different, but for some of the core products, the terms and conditions in CSP are different. And I had a client last year that came to me almost not really crying, but panicking, because they flipped from EA to CSP with their Windows 10, at the time Windows 10, not Windows 11, I told you, last year. After signing all the deals and approving everything, they came back to them and said, and by the way, you can't use on-premises VDIs, because that right is not included in the CSP licenses for Windows 10. That person was very upset. We found the solution. They had to move their VDI farms to services provider. So you have to basically make changes to your IT. I call them crippled licenses. They have actually fewer rights than an enterprise agreement. Product availability. That's another concern that I have. The System Center, which many still use, and I know companies that are deploying, by the way, at the time System Center, and it's not available in CSP. I'm wondering, even with that rumor about switching from 500 to 2,400 seats, what are those organizations going to do if they're below 2,400 seats? If that happens, and Microsoft says, by the way, switch to CSP, but there's no System Center. It's not a simple switch. And the other thing is, in regards to Office 365, Microsoft 365, the same E3 and E5 subscription. So, as you probably know, Microsoft E5 is their hero offering. It's what they push into every client these days. And E3 is something that the majority of customers have already bought in. If you procure them through EA, you get on-premises Office server rights. If you were an enterprise agreement client and you switch to these licenses, you have rights to deploy old Office versions on laptops and desktops, even current Office versions. I mean, Office Professional Plus, not the Office 365. You don't get that through CSP. You don't have these rights. And when organizations switch from one to another, they're not necessarily told about those changes. And that is my reservation. So we need to educate more people about the risks of that. And I'm not saying it's the sky will fall on earth if you switch. So you just need to prepare, just need to be absolutely aware what you need in your on-premise and cloud estates, and then assess if that switch will affect how you're using that right now. And if you still have an ability to be in an enterprise agreement, right now, I see no incentive to switch to CSP.
So I've got a follow-up question for you, Alex. We came up with a situation lately, and I'd like to just share the solution that we gave regarding a customer that is on a substantial CSP around 800K per year. Even though it's a substantial amount, the customer had an issue with licensing Windows Server Data Center. I don't know if everybody on the call is aware, but Windows Server Data Center is currently still not on the CSP price list.
There are a few things you can do with Windows Server Data Center. If you're not on subscription, if it's a perpetual license, do nothing. If we're talking about you switch it in 2022, you want to keep Windows Server Data Center. If you have perpetual license, nobody's going to take them from you. They're with you forever. And Microsoft has just recently released Windows Server 2022. If you had this on an enterprise agreement, whenever you choose, you may still switch to Windows Server 2022 on those virtual machines, on those hosts that you license with Windows Server Data Center. You're not stuck to your current version. You actually have the right to upgrade to the version that was the last one when your software assurance expired. And that's what's going to happen. If you switch from EA to CSP for Windows Server Data Center, your software assurance obviously will expire. And there's no replacement for that in CSP, but you can keep your licenses. That's actually quite the same thing, because for Windows Server Data Center, there are only two substantial software assurance rights, which you're losing switching to CSP. Azure Hybrid Benefits, and the other thing you're losing with software assurance is version upgrade rights. Nothing else. The choice is yours. The other option is to stay with EA.
Or we introduced also an MPSA. What I wanted to just emphasize is that there are still other programs out there that are still valid. And many times what happens is when something new comes around, even though CSP is not that new, but still for a lot of people it's new, you forget that there are, I call them procurement vehicles. Don't be intimidated of mixing programs if needed.